Alright, y'all, welcome back to Animesavants. This week, I am Pochita? Is that his name?
Yep, that's definitely his name.
Pochita. I am Pochita this week.
Well, I will join you this week. I am Denji. Before we get started, just for those who are watching this on YouTube, feel free, give us a like. You know, we're seeing some activity, so just throw those likes.
Yeah.
Helps us out a lot.
And you don't, more ghost stories is coming. Just like, it is
that should
coming.
That should be like a tagline.
It should, the tagline, more ghost stories is coming. But jumping off of last week, is there anything new outside of the big two that you've watched for the new fall season?
Not really. I did watch a little bit of the My Hero episode I do it every season where I'm like, I'm a manga reader, so it's like I'm not fiending to move the story forward. I just want to know like how they animated some part, you know, just like, did it look good or not? So no, other than that, not really. Did go back and reread a little bit of Chainsawman to like jog my memory, and that's about it. It's not a lot else that was, unusual as part of my usual viewing. What about you?
Oh, okay. Well, I spoke about Villainess last week, so that's like a given. Did you watch Mob Psycho?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay. Oh, well then, no, let's talk about Eminence and Shadow. What did you think of the first episode?
I liked it. I liked it not knowing what I was getting into, because
I was confused for a minute. I was like,
"Oh my god!" When he died in the middle of the episode, I'm like, "Okay, so this is I was led to believe this was an isekai."
Yeah.
But we spent a lot of time building up characters who are not going to be a part of the story at all.
I was wondering. I'm thinking, is this girl the main girl that's gonna be him, and she's gonna look different or something like that? No. This is all just
we're spending an awful lot of time in the regular world.
I mean, which a lot of isekai don't do. They'll give you I was comparing it to Isekai Pharmacist, where we got a decent little chunk of the first part of the episode just giving us a background and his motivations for who he is and why he's the way that he is, and then he gets transferred. This one was just a whole it was literally 3/4 of the episode.
Yeah,
no,
he gets off screen killed by Truck-kun.
But so then that was another question I had. I'm thinking, did he go to Truck-kun willingly?
Right.
Did he know about reincarnation somehow? Because his obsession was power, and he was trying to get it no matter what, and he realized that he had limits because niggas could pull out a gun and pop his ass. And you can take all the martial arts you want, I'm gonna shoot your ass, nigga, and you're dead. So I understood that, but the way I felt like it could have just started with that as opposed to the whole scenario with the girl. But then maybe they were doing that to emphasize just how weak he is, because he also stated when he was fighting the guy, you definitely are better than me, in a sense, and I need to do tricks and things to beat you. And I understood why they put it in there, but at the same time I'm thinking, where's the magic, nigga? Where's the espionage, where are the girls? Where are my girls at? And then we got them, and I was like, "Oh,
right."
Okay.
So my belief, and this is based on not reading the light novels, but an inference that I'm making just from the way that the show has been produced, at least in the first episode, is that probably that the light novel itself kind of does some out of time storytelling, and there was a need to, in the first episode, introduce the audience to what the actual hook of the show was going to be. And so they kind of give you that scene where you see all the girls and everything at the end, but I don't know if that's actually how the story was told.
Okay.
I get and I also get the feeling that they're jamming a lot of stuff in to save time, even though I won't say we wasted time in the first episode, but it's we had to learn that the main character is an ultra chunibyo, and he has delusions of being fucking Batman, and taking it to
you're right, he's fucking Chuny Batman.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like, no irony. Like, the cringe level is, like, off the charts on purpose.
But see, that's the thing. I didn't know if I should be cringing, because I was thinking...
I don't think you should. So that's what I mean. This is an earnest desire by the character. It's not played for a joke. So within the context of the universe, this isn't absurd. This person is just crazy, right? They're a psycho. Now, the reason why I was excited for the show in the first place is because all of the isekai scenes we got in the ads, well, what we saw before the show aired was very like mustache twirly, Code Geass level, like over the top pontificating and gloating and, you know, I threw that shit before I came in the room type, you know, Deus Ex Machina shit for the main character because he's just an over the top, you know, absurd character. So I was ready for all of that shit. There's nothing about that, which is genuinely cringeworthy. I mean, it is. But I was ready for it because that's what I wanted out of the show. I wanted, like, you know, Diet Lelouch. If that's as far as they got with the concept, I'm cool. Or I was cool. I still think that's what is going to happen, but I just don't know the importance of why we spent that whole first act, well, two-thirds of the first episode doing that much. We had to like see him get to a point where that you pointed out, the statement he makes where he's like, I've reached the limit of like what I can do the way I want to do it, and ultimately technology and the physics of this world are just like not enough, and he's like studying these other alternative worlds
he had the
and powers and other things.
Circle. Yeah.
So he's kind of already prepped and ready, you know, from a story point of view for what happens when he wakes up. So I just assume it's going to be like hyper Chunibyo Batman shit, with a lot of hot girls, which is like the whole point. That's why we're watching this.
I just want to see the girls fight. So like, yeah, I'm excited to see where it's going to go, especially based off the PVs, because some of them were basically monsters before he found them, or like devolved corpses or something. So yeah, I'm still looking forward to it, but I definitely was a little thrown off by the first episode. I thought we were going to get a quick, like, boop, isekai, here are the beginnings of how he got his power, and by the end of the episode, either we're into a plot or, like, he's just grandstanding, and then the episode ends. So we'll see. I do think that they are sticking true to what the PVs gave us, though, as far as, oh, I am on nobody's side. I'm just chaotic. I'm doing what the fuck I want to do. So
yeah, so I agree. I just wonder if we're gonna get some explanation as to why we met that character in the first.
Maybe. Like, I hope so.
I'd like to know. Maybe it's just nothing. Maybe it's just a red herring. That's fine. I'm not upset about that either.
Yeah. What else was there? How'd you like Mob?
I love Mob. Every season of Mob is always like putting on a warm blanket that you've been, you've had for years. It's very easy to slip into the style of humor, and the pacing and the characters all are charming because it's like splits its duty with being serialized in some ways and in other ways episodic. It never gets too grounded down in its own plot, and that's kind of how this first episode was, because you always have to revisit Mob at whatever level of development he's had since the first season, plus what his new insecurity is and how that insecurity ties back to things that you as an audience member can empathize with. So the idea that the episode was based around choosing your future profession, which is something I never had to do in high school or middle school, but sounds like it's a very common thing in Japan, because I've seen this brought up in school plots since the beginning of forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I thought that was good. What did you think about the episode?
I thought it was chill. I thought it was just a great re-entry into everything. They didn't need to reintroduce everybody or anything. And the lackey from last season, he fits in perfectly with Regan in the office and everything. And the students coming back into it also, with everyone's ranking in the school and the career day. And I like the pacing, whereas they finished everything in the episode. Yeah. Everything that the insecurity or the problem that Mob was trying to get through. And I like the difference is that now, as opposed to everyone like randomly giving him the advice. He actually seeks advice from people now. So it's showing his growth as a person as opposed to him just like kind of keeping to himself and just not really saying anything. He's actually going to the people around him and getting other people's perspectives willingly as opposed to just, you know, being a side character, a pseudo side character until he's needed. So I enjoy that part of it.
You know, Mob Psycho has always been an ensemble cast sort of show where you can have stories that focus on just about anybody, but the balance of the storytelling always brings you back to A, core themes, and B, some issue Mob has because he's the lens. Yeah. One thing I have liked more and more, if you go from like seasons 2 into this season, is that they've done a better and better job of showing that when Mob is going through some problem, and it's framed as like through his school or through his like adolescence as he's growing up, that other characters in whatever that episode or that mini arc, if it's a 2-episode thing, are often all going through the exact same problem. But it's a version of it that doesn't infantilize the adults and also doesn't make Mob out to be someone who is overly like worrying too much. It always by the end puts everything in perspective where he seems reasonable and then all the adults or older people who are dealing with it also in a way seem reasonable, even if they are like the antagonist for the episode, because sometimes it's like you know, a spirit is actually reflecting that worry that he has or the challenge that he's trying to overcome, which I like because it humanizes everything in the series, you know. And that's kind of how this episode was around having anxiety about the future. How did you feel about the scene where they go to the last client and like everybody was getting depressed? Like, everyone was getting depressed.
I was screaming. I was like, "Bitch, I don't do roaches," and I knew.
Nobody did roaches. When that roach moved, Rika was like, "I gotta
go." The skittering sound. I'm just like, I know there are roaches in there. Like at first I was like, oh, is it gonna be a rat or is it gonna be a roach? And then you can just hear the skit. I'm just like, it's fucking roaches. He's got roaches. I know he does. That nigga picked up the thing and the roach just like that's what they give roaches, like those little eyes, those like bug eyes. I'm like, oh my God, I can't fucking do this. And they're sitting there like nothing's wrong. And I would literally, first of all, I'll be like, I'm not going in that apartment. I'm not going in that apartment. And even if I did make it in there, I'm not sitting down on anything. Because I was like, you probably got roaches, you got bed bugs, you got rats, you got everything that you can have in this bitch. I'm not going there. So that alone just made that scene like very aggressive with me. Because I was just, it was just too much like mentally. But
you're not a roach
visually.
Guy. Yeah.
Visually. But as far as like the guy and like, you know, his problems and all the stuff that I was like, nigga, okay, whatever. Like, I like how there's always like a differentiation within like the spirits that always appear, and his spirit looked that way for that particular thing. And like, he had a house. I thought he was in an apartment, but he had a house and everything. And when they exorcised him, he got exorcised, and then he literally found another vice right after they exorcised him. He picked up those like thrown out volumes of manga or whatever the fuck that was on the street, and I was like, he's about to go be a neat. Like, he's not about to leave the fucking house again. They're about to come back to him. So I didn't really think it had a bigger meaning beyond that, but I also could have missed it because I was too focused on the fucking filth.
Yeah, I don't think that it will have much of a difference. Rather, I don't think it had much of like a impact outside of like this little story, because this is all about reintroducing us to all of the setup. I think the piece that will carry forward is a conversation that Mob had on the roof with the photographer girl, the one who was in the cult from last season. Yeah. Where she's kind of laying out like, you know, maybe Mob should capitalize on the popularity of his cult as well as this giant broccoli. And Mob is like, does nobody else see that this is like an issue? Or is it just a big piece of broccoli? Like, what the fuck?
It is, yeah. I saw that coming, but the end of the episode gave that away because Homeboy went over there and he's like, all right, I guess it's time for me to do something. I'm like, oh, God, are you going to be doing some dumb shit again? But
I'm happy he has something to do. Maybe he's going to try to capitalize on,
a new cult.
The new cult or something. Because that's the theme. Maybe the theme, we're underestimating the theme of the first episode not necessarily being the theme of the season, right?
Yeah.
About people trying to find what they're destined to do. And however that fucks up or not. I don't know. Maybe.
I watched Blue Lock. That shit was good.
I gotta get around to watching that one.
That shit was really good.
Gotta do it.
For the most part, I really just enjoyed the visuals. Like 8-Bit did a really fucking good job. It looks really clean. Like the lines are super defined. But when they got to the shits, it was hype. It was hype. And I know a lot of people were excited about the show, and I got a little something to say about hype when we talk about one of these other shows. Mm-hmm. But I felt like the show going in and not knowing anything, when we reached the climax of the episode, I felt the hype. Like it was manufactured hype that was built off of just like the surrounding situation and what they gave us in the first episode. It was great for me. I was dialed the fuck in. I immediately wanted more. Immediately. So I kind of think it was one of my favorite first episodes of the season, to be honest. It was really, 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 really good. Like, really good. The characters, I cannot wait to learn more about the cast outside of the main character. Just, yeah, it's really, I think it was very good. I haven't seen any negative opinions about it, but also I'm probably just not like, following those people or interacting with those people, so that's probably why. But yeah, it was good. I recommend it.
I think that the animation is sort of what has gotten it more attention than any description of the show before, during, or even probably after did or will do. Like I like sports anime. It was kind of on the edge of my radar, as I was definitely going to check it out. Wasn't sure if it, what to make of it. I think one of the challenges is, because it's about a sport that isn't necessarily popular in the United States, if you happen to be on English-speaking Twitter or you're engaged in those circles, then it's not going to... It has a lot more to overcome, despite the fact that it looks like a really, 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 really good production. And that just because it's about soccer. Like, I played soccer when I was in high school, and, I follow the sport internationally, and I, support the local team, which is the Revs, the Revolution in New England. But beyond that, compare that to something like, Kuroko no Basket or whatever. More people in the U.S. know and play basketball. Even something like Ice Shield 21, which is like about an improbable Japanese youth football team. A lot of people in the United States play, watch, and enjoy football. So in those spaces, I think shows like that just happen to have an advantage, because they connect with an existing fan base that's bigger than, let's say, like MLS or even World Cup level, international soccer, whenever it rolls around. Which is, interesting. When does the World Cup start? They've already started advertising. Is it next year, early next year?
I don't know, but I know our women's team is fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, so the bottom line is that there's it is this year. So I wonder when is the first game?
Wait, is the World Cup not every year?
No, it's every 4.
Oh, it's every 4 years?
Am I wrong?
It's like the Olympics?
It's every 2 years. It's not every year.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
I didn't know that. See, that's how
anyway,
detached I am.
We got World Cup this year.
There's one this year. Okay.
And it'll be actually in November, so it'll coincide with the anime airing. So I presume that
there's gonna be some cross promotion then.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Which really they talk about that. That's one of the main things they talk about within the anime is Japan's ranking with the World Cup and the philosophy of where Japan is ranked and what niggas where they want to be ranked and what's not working and why this is set up and all. They explain the situation very well, and they just throw them niggas in. They just go. So
yeah, so I think it's every 4 years. So this is timed on purpose. Like, this is not a this is not a mistake. So yeah, I definitely want to get around to watching the first episode just to And it's gonna run for 24 episodes too. So.
Oh, it's 24 episodes?
I believe so.
Oh, we're getting a lot then. Oh my God.
It's great.
Okay.
I love to see it.
Wow. Yeah.
Besides that, I mean, I know you mentioned that you watched Witch from Mercury. I did want to add like a couple thoughts there in that, when the first episode dropped, there was a lot of noise around how good it was, which is great. And there was some other noise from people who would better not be named who were upset that it was a more Yuri focused story. I would still say that like maybe the people who leaned into that narrative on both sides would be maybe a little overselling what they're doing. Like they're taking elements from things and they're not afraid to like play into a lot of like the visuals and
they're leaving a lot of stuff up to imagination.
Which is fine. Again, like it's when I jokingly tagged it like Udana Gundam, it's not that I want necessarily to see something that's quite that deep, because I'm not saying it doesn't belong in Gundam, but like, it's a goofy, silly kind of story and you don't want to get bogged down too much in trying to air quote send a message. I did think it was interesting when people were really flipping out about the lesbian stuff, and somebody unearthed an old interview that Tomino gave talking about the early days of original Gundam's fandom and how the show was actually supported. That it was supported by Fujoshis of that era.
Char and Amuro.
That they were really the first hardcore fans to come out and support, the show. This is well before there was this sort of established
Doji.
And gunpla industry, which brought in a lot of the male fans after the fact. So for anybody who's saying like, oh, Gundam was never gay, it's always been gay. Always.
If it weren't gay, it wouldn't be here today.
Yes, Gundam might be one of the gayest series ever. If you really think about like what being a new type means.
Well, also, I don't even know why people are freaking out, because wasn't there that like unrequited gay love story in Iron-Blooded Orphans? Like what why is this a shock? They've already.
Well, the shock is that the main character has a vagina, and that's the actual problem. And then everything else kind of flows from there.
I mean, She-Hulk shows us that. Jesus Christ.
I mean, yeah, right. Like the issues just flow from that part. I mean, look, I understand that there's other things that don't really have anything to do with the show that also kind of amps up the toxicity, but at the same time, you watch episode 2, I mean, there's a story here, right? And I do like the fact that most of the prime movers in the current story are all women, right? At every level of the show. The supporting cast that has speaking roles and are clearly going to be like, supporters to the main characters are, for the most part, women. Most of the antagonists are men. The structure of the plot is sort of like a not-so-veiled criticism of the patriarchy, how silly and insipid the whole situation is, and then the fact that there's and then there's also the whole like witch trial concept that they're spinning out into calling basically any uppity woman a witch, which I think is very interesting. Is it heavy-handed and maybe a little like super on the nose? Yeah, sure. But, I mean, like, it's Gundam. Most of the stuff they do is heavy-handed and super on the nose. So, like, if that's where you want to hang your criticism, I'm not going to disagree with the fact of the matter, but I just don't think it's a problem. Plus, we got our Char clone this week in Lady Prospera, which is interesting. That helmet gets goofier every time. It's really
That's
more
what
of like
I first thought of. As soon as I saw her, I was like thinking, oh, is this Char? Is this the Char? But you're from Mercury. But that doesn't mean anything.
It's really like more of like a Zex Marquise helmet than it is like a traditional Char mask, which is cute because a lot of the AC series tend to pay homage to the other AC series, of which it's been a while since there's really been.
Iron-Blooded Orphans had Montag. Is that his name?
Yeah,
Montag. Yeah.
But this one is obviously throwing some love back to Gundam Wing, which again, ironically, despite being, not very well received in Japan and super over in the United States, it's a series that actually, within the canon of Gundam, there's not really a lot of callback to. Same for G Gundam as well. Series.
I need another Hell Scythe. I need someone to fucking pull out a scythe. Please.
I mean, if there was going to be a series to do it, it might be Witch from Mercury. But the other cool things, we got to see some of the like grunt suits, and they look cool. There was a tease at the end for what's probably either an antagonist suit or other things.
I feel like it's Guel's new suit or some shit like that.
Could be. And then, the second episode kind of puts the hammer down on what the structure of the plot is going to be going forward.
Earthian, Spatians treating Earthians like
right.
shit.
And Suletta basically having a duel every other episode to try to, prove that she belongs there and blah, 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 blah. So, you know what?
And
if that's the ride, I'm good.
That they didn't just sweep Gundams under the rug. Like, it's
right.
well known that people should not be fucking with this, even though it's not produced anymore. So.
Right.
And I also enjoyed the banter going back and forth where, what's the Mercury person's name? Prospera was saying, well, it's not a Gundam because of this. And they were going and saying, well, but it does have this, but that doesn't mean it's a Gundam. But that doesn't mean it's not a Gundam. Like, I was
this
like,
nigga said, it's a Gundam because I said it's a Gundam. Yeah, it's like, you baby.
Yeah.
You big baby.
But I like the scenes that he has with Miorine because he's kind of right. He's like, you don't have any power. Like, yeah. I can say and do what the fuck I want.
Right.
And like, what you gonna do about it? So
it's a man's world. That's what this is. You know? So
which it makes it more believable because it is frustrating to deal with shit like that, especially when it's a woman dealing with it.
Right.
So
the show doesn't really have to do that much to be fine. And it's actively does a lot that's good. So even if I could walk down the road of some of the cliches that kind of don't make any sense already. And like, if you are extra narrow-minded, you could just sort of pretend like that's where your beef is when it's really about the fact that the cast is all mostly female and there's a strong like Yuri vibe to the whole show. Like, but you don't want to talk about that. You'll just call it woke. Like, you could do that. I don't care. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing. It's probably my second most anticipated watch of the week so far, and we'll get to some of the other stuff. But beyond that, I'm fine. I'm cool. I'm chilling. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. Spy Family happened. I'm actually surprised that I actually thought somebody was gonna get hurt this episode, but it's Spy Family, so no.
Yeah.
They
No.
I'm pretty sure the dog isn't gonna die either. So Not Borf, but the one that he was about to pop at the end of the episode.
Uh-huh.
I was like, he's gonna make that work out somehow. But god damn, fun episode with that too.
Yeah, I think for me, Spy Family still remains like the thing I want to watch most. You know, like it just has that appeal where I'm watching it, and I also feel like anybody could be watching it. It doesn't require a buy into like a specific genre to enjoy. Well, like it's something I could show my wife and she'd be into it, even not knowing anything else about it.
So going off of that point, so I think we've brought up Genshin like a few times on the show, but I've been reading a lot about like Genshin Impact's success and like where it's coming from. And I honestly feel like that could partially play into Spy Family too, because one of the main reasons why Genshin is so successful is because it appeals heavily to women gamers. Mm-hmm. A lot of women gamers are extremely interested in the game. They are fan arts, streaming, everything. Like there's a connection. There's an easy connection with the game, and it appeals to them. So I'm thinking maybe that's one of the reasons why Spy Family is also super duper popular, because it's easy to get into. It's not just you have to watch this anime and that anime, or you just have to be used to anime for this plot line. Like, you just gotta go with it. It's more so it's just, this is accessible and it's relatable to everyone, not just a male power fantasy.
Right. And it's funny, and there's a lot of young women in it, and it's well animated, and the music is good. The world building the setting rather, is not so dense that you really need to know a lot about what's going on. It kind of has like a mid-modern aesthetic. So like things look a little retro, but then they also look a little not so retro. And it's just a pleasant watch. Again, like I'm looking at like what's out this season, and I always kind of use my wife as like a barometer of like someone who's aware of anime and could say they've actually enjoyed a series in their life, but they're also not plugged in at all to any communities and don't go out of their way to watch anything. If I just showed this to her or somebody like her, then I'd be very comfortable. Like this show, definitely. I think there may be some others like this season that like I could walk into and walk a person slowly into the show and not really need to do much else. Whereas like some of the bigger named series that are running are very acquired tastes, even to people who might be into anime.
Yeah, agreed.
I'll talk about one of them, which is Samurai Itoki, which I mentioned last week that I watched the first episode and I enjoyed it. So this is exactly my kind of show because, much as you pointed out, like in Spy Family, there's a lot of like violence and real threat, but nobody really dies. It's the same way in Samurai Itoki, and it took me 2 episodes to like get my brain around what was the balance that they were going for, because if you just read like the description, you're like, okay, semi like modern ninjas, high school age main character, you know, kind of coming of age, kind of action oriented. In the past, when the story of like Koga and Iga has been done, it's usually quite bloody because it's usually portrayed as like a tragedy of some kind where like everybody's killing each other and dying. And if you watch the first episode but didn't get to the end of the first episode, you might think that's what this is about. But I promise you, after episode 2, it is very clear that is not what the show is about at all. In fact, it's a weird like analogy that's being drawn between Japanese like the struggle between like the corporate conglomerate culture of the cities and like the rural pastoral kind of culture that exists. And the way they're doing it is there's these 2 parallels. One is the world of the ninja that they've created, which is a very how do I say this? It's like capitalist ninjas, like office building ninjas. So on the one end you have like Koga, which is a secret ninja clan, but they're also the owners of like a huge conglomerate company. And they have the Iga, which is a smaller ninja clan who's sort of like not quite in hiding, but like they're staying off the radar, and they run a bunch of like convenience stores that are on the highways around town. And so the motivating incident in the story is that the head of the Koga is killed at some point off before the story happens, and the Iga are blamed for it. And so a warfare is kind of breaking out between these 2 ninja clans in a world where there are many ninja clans who are sort of forbidden from fighting with each other in public by, you know, a ninja society, you know, ninja police or whatever. They're not allowed to fight with each other in public. So the way that they do a lot of their non-hand-to-hand combat is through corporate takeovers. And so the Koga are like ascending. They have all this money and this power. And the Iga are like, you know, they run these, like, they run convenience. So like when you meet all the characters, they're workers at this store. And the main character doesn't know that he is not just the son of the head of the Iga clan, but also the rightful heir of that clan. His father kind of died at some point a long time ago, and his mother was raising him as not a ninja. She was like, you know, I'll put you in lots of martial arts courses and force you to learn all these languages and do all this stuff, but I'm never going to tell you that, like,
that you're a ninja.
That you're a ninja until he gets not quite catfished, but like a girl shows up who like confesses to him, and then that it's actually a trap. She's trying to murder him because of the murder of their boss of the other clan. So that's where like everything kicks off. But when they get to episode 2, it's very clear that the show wants to draw these parallels between the war that the Koga and Iga are having. That's like a blood feud where people actually die in this episode, and the facade of like corporate takeover. So for example, 2 guys that we meet in a boardroom talking about how they're planning to destroy and kill everyone in the Iga clan show up at the convenience store as representatives of their company, basically G'ing the store out of one of their suppliers that they took over and just jacking their prices. And it's like, those 2 things are happening simultaneously. Or the main character has to transfer to Ninja Academy, like Ninja High School, which is it's presented in a silly way, and then they're like, the reason why we're presenting it this way is because nobody would believe this is a real school, but it is. And to get in, they have to play hide and seek in a convenience store owned by Koga, but they can't let anybody know. Like, you have to, like, it's in pairs, so, like, one person goes out and has to disguise themselves and blend in and, like, not get caught, and then the other person has to catch them without doing anything that would violate, you know, the rules of being a ninja in this era. But it very quickly breaks down into an assassination attempt where there's some really cool action, there's some really cool thinking on the part of the main character, and then the people who broke the rules all get murdered in a jail cell at the end of the episode.
Oh!
To cover things up. So it's like, it's silly, it's absurd, it kind of has some social commentary built into it. It's still kind of a traditional shonen or shonen adjacent type thing. They're funny because the main character only knows about ninjas from popular culture, so he's thinking like, well, if I have to become a ninja now, I guess you all have to train me in your secret techniques, like where's the, you know, fireball no jutsu and all this other stuff, and the other people are looking at him like, nigga, this is the real world.
Yeah.
Like, if you want fire, you got to start a fire. Like, so the one guy's smoking, he's smoking cigarettes, like, here's my fire, you know, my fire technique. And then another girl's like, grabs his coffee and like pours the coffee over the cigarette. It's like, there's my water technique. And it's like,
wow.
like they're just like fucking with him because like, you're an idiot. Like, that's not how things work. You watch too many shows. And so that's like a joke. And then it leads into like a life or death battle later on. That's actually pretty interesting. I say all that, it's still like, I would say like a upper B tier production. Like, the music is like okay, the visuals are consistent. There's nothing cheap at all about like the presentation of the show, but a lot of it is like deliberately kind of flat and antiseptic because the ninjas, when they transform, the only kind of like magical stuff you ever see, which is all tech, is like they can just put their suits on over their clothes quickly. And some of it's actually pretty fucking cool. Like, they have like active camouflage, you know, and other things like that. So it's like tech ninja stuff. So I'd like to just see where it goes. But that's another one that I actually just enjoy now watching week to week, because there's some other meat underneath the, you know, the skin of what it is presenting itself to be.
Yeah.
Not much, but enough that like there's a clear, unique idea here. So I'm cool with it. I like it.
Okay. I watched also More Than Married, but not a couple, whatever that was. It was okay. It was okay.
Too bad.
It was okay. I was really looking forward to it. I really, really, really liked the aesthetic. And it kind of gave Dress Up Darling vibes, or like it kind of gave like Dress Up Darling like potential-esque. It didn't deliver by the end of the episode. It didn't deliver. I could see it going somewhere, but my attention, I just wasn't sold. And also, like, you know, Dress Up Darling had ecchi, but this has like ecchi that it's just like constantly throwing in your face, like panty shot, titty shot, wet clothes, blah blah blah. And I really wasn't expecting it to be like that, like aggressive with it. I thought it was going to be in there. Like, of course I did, but not to the extent that it is. Like, okay, like you just showed her panties like 3 seconds ago. Like, we back on this shit again. Like, what are we doing? Like, but whatever. But you know, you watch some. There are probably people out there who really, really enjoyed that first episode, and there's probably potential because I know, what is it, a light novel, manga, whatever. So someone might come in the comments and be like, "Oh no, you gotta stick around." We'll see. But the first episode really didn't grip me that much. And speaking of first episodes, which one you want to go to? Which
let's go with Bleach first, because I think that's a for anyone who is watching this because they were a reader, and so they are just waiting for things that they already know are going to happen. I think there's like one experience, and then there's another experience for people who have never seen Bleach before at all, and so this is kind of their introduction to the series, right? And then the third is like the folks who only ever watched and now are coming back to it after, like, you know, they don't know anything about the Thousand Year Blood War arc. They have no expectations. So there's like these three different views, and I can only really come at it from the point of view of like a reader. So as a reader, it was like, okay, they put a little bit of extra exposition into this episode to just give and not just speaking, but also like visual moments that kind of weren't in the first manga chapter, just so that you could be made aware of who are all of the characters, who are the main characters, what do they do. Yeah. So there's that aspect. The other is like the pacing of the episode was interesting because it felt like it was like two episodes jammed together, but then at the same time when you like look at it on paper, nothing really stuck around or lingered too long. We are kind of quickly told something weird's going down all around the world, over in the Soul Society, in Karakura Town. We get a quick, introduction to a couple junior Shinigami. Shit goes left. You meet the main cast of Bleach coming back in. Everyone does their signature stuff. Ichigo pointlessly goes Bankai to kill some fucking hollows, which is like, okay, they did this. And I think it may have been in the manga chapter too. I don't really know if it was or it wasn't, but I'm assuming it was. But like visually, it was just done. So it's like, okay, now you know what a Bleach is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is what everyone loves.
Yeah. So that happened, and I think the CGI was good too. So that's like the first half. So what were your thoughts at least that far in the episode?
Well, I'm coming at it from someone who read it all those years ago. And then just stopped. Like, I did not go back and reread to refresh my mind. So, as I was watching the episode, I was like, okay, so some things are coming back to me, some things are not. But I don't think I'm going to go back and reread it at this point. I'm just going to be like, whatever. I'll just watch it all over again. It's whatever. It'll take 3-4 years for it all to come out anyway. So, who cares?
I don't think there's any need to reread it because I don't think reading it is necessarily a better experience.
Yeah.
Especially if we're getting more, like...
That was the thing that made me think that I wanted to read it, because then I was thinking, oh, well, I might not recognize when they've added something. But I feel like I remember... I was remembering things as it happened in the episode, and I was like, I remember that. I don't quite remember that. Maybe, yes. I don't know. But... we'll get to it when we get to it. There's one big thing near the end that I definitely remember. So, and then there's some other stuff that we've talked about several times that I remember that we probably won't even get them this season. So,
probably not.
Maybe we'll probably get glimpses of them near the end of the season. But yeah, those are the things I'm more interested in, because those are like, they're more recent in my memory from what's going on, like deaths, power-ups, all that kind of stuff, the mystery behind the Kenpachi, like all that kind, all of that.
Which again was not handled very well in the manga, so there's not really a great reason to go watch it.
Yeah, like let's,
or rather to read it. Yeah.
So like these beginning parts, I'm kind of just like, okay, well we're gonna see. And did they announce that this was the final arc of Bleach before it started?
Well, it's not the final arc.
Well, when the manga was being produced.
Oh, I don't think it was.
Yeah,
I don't think it was.
Yeah, I think like part way through the arc, they were like, "This is gonna be the final arc. Wrap it up." Or
so after the Zero Squad stuff.
Yeah.
Then I think at some point it was like, "Oh, this is the final arc." That's when it was announced.
And I also remember that they just came out of nowhere and they were like, "Bleach is ending in 2 weeks."
Yeah, that's literally what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of revisionist history around why Bleach ended and how it ended. There's one group of people who I call like, the revanchists, the fans, the people who were like ultra, my personality is defined by Ichigo Kurosaki from 15 years ago. And those people are of the belief, they're misremembering history, that, first, the Bleach anime went down, and then, like, the manga, was canceled soon after because the anime wasn't popular anymore, right? Basically saying, like, oh, it was the fault of the networks for canceling it. Then there's the other group of people who probably didn't even really read it and never liked it, and those are the folks who are running around talking about, like, oh,
shit.
Yeah, Bleach is trash, and that's why I got canceled. I mean, it's a combination of a lot of things, but your timeline is basically correct. That it was really the manga sales fell off a cliff. The volume sales dropped. It was crazy. It went from 100,000 to 30,000 in a couple of months. And when that happened, all the other stuff fell apart. So the abruptness of the way we as readers were introduced to the fact that this was the end.
Yeah.
Came in like two big cuts.
So that's probably why, or that's why I'm saying the beginning of this, I don't really heavily remember it because I just went into the whole arc thinking, oh, whatever, we're moving.
It's just another thing.
Yeah,
and then there's just like, no, actually, this is the end.
Yeah. So I would have paid way more attention to everything if I had known, like, oh, this is it. This is all you're getting, nigga. Beat up. So.
Yep. So, as far as like
the episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say the episode itself was good. It has, if you like Bleach, if you were already into it, you're gonna be very happy. Mm-hmm. It also has all the problems that Bleach always has had. For example, in one episode, we get some really weird power scaling because you meet the junior Shinigami. They get washed immediately by regular hollows that in the story are superpowered, but you don't know that. Those hollows get one shot by everybody in Ichigo's crew. Then Ichigo goes Bankai for no reason. So then you're like, okay, so he is scaled, 1,000,000 levels. He like wipes out like the whole group in one attack. Then you meet the captains of the Gotei 13, of which one vice captain gets one-shotted, like, off camera, through the camera, into the wall. And then, okay, so these guys are super powerful. But then he lives. So he actually didn't get one shot. He's supposed to be dead. Well, at least the way they presented it, like, oh, that guy's dead. And then he's like, well, I'm not fully dead. I'm alive just enough to give you a piece of exposition. And then we get to Ichigo. So now we're like, okay, he's in peril because these guys are stronger than the strongest. And it turns out that the powers don't even work on him. And he one-shots the guy. And
I mean, we know why it doesn't work on him.
Yeah. But like that part of it, that last bit, is kind of where it's like, if I'm a new viewer, I've had my brain scrambled by the end of this episode. Right? Like, I know who everybody is, sorta, but, like, what the fuck is going on?
And if I'm honest, as a new person, going into this, I feel like it's too much. Because they haven't even gone over all the captains, the vice captains. What is a Bankai? Who can do a Bankai? What's your Bankai element and power? Like, there's a lot to learn while they're also simultaneously introducing the Quincy's.
Yes, they're going real hard on a lot of like, and that was like if you want to be real about it, like it sounds like I'm very negative. I love Bleach, so I enjoyed it, but like, if you want to be honest, one of the weakest parts of Bleach always was the world building, because there were some really cool ideas, but like, honestly, most of it never grew past, like, niggas show up in Karakura Town, it gets wrecked, Ichigo, the squad, and some new people fuck some shit up. They all lose. Ichigo beats the bad guy. But every, like, wrinkle, the Quincy's, the Soul Society, the Gotei 13, Hollows, Huecomundo, the abilities, like, there's all this jargon and other things that's, like, from layers of attempts to do world building. That if you're... I'm pretty
sure if someone was like, oh, a Rancor, and they were new, they'd be like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, right? Like, these sort of observations and everything else, like, they're not... This is not an episode I would walk into and be like, if you've never watched Bleach before, you're fine to, like, pick this up right here. I mean, the first 10 minutes of it, maybe, they kind of tell you, visually who's going on, what the character dynamics between everybody is, the little banter in Ichigo's room. Like, that's all very familiar and, like, letting you know... For a new viewer, okay, this is what it's about. But all the rest of that stuff, the stuff to, like, get the plot moving, is very much embedded in old knowledge of this series. And so I guarantee you that people are going to be hitting up wikis almost immediately to remind themselves, like, what the fuck was that? Who is this? How does this matter? What does this connect to? And then half them niggas are going to get spoiled in the process. Yep. And they get mad about it. Mm-hmm. But it's like, and that's kind of one of the issues with coming back to the series at all, is that by necessity that has to happen. So it's not a critique, it's just like, this is what it is. It's like if Attack on Titan went AWOL for 10 years, there's gonna be a lot of people who would come back for that last season or whatever, to the last arc, and be like, okay, what the fuck was any of this? What is this? you know? And it would be hard to serve that audience and an audience of people who are just like, finish the story! Let's finish the fucking story! Like, that's just hard to do. So, I would just, I like it and the production's there, so you got me. Plus, the ending song is probably my favorite tune.
Oh my god, I wasn't
season.
Expecting that. It was like a full song.
Yeah. And if you've heard the full thing online, you know how good it is too.
I was actually really shocked by that. I was like, wait, what's going on? Like, why are we getting over? I was expecting the opening to be the end, but it was just like a nostalgia fest.
But they snuck a banger in for ED1, which is par for the course of Bleach too. There's some they got a lot of Sonic masterpieces in that library of like openings and endings. So this is just gets added to it. I wish the ending was the opening, to be honest.
I really liked the song, but I was also expecting. I don't know what I was expecting, to be honest, because they have so much time and so much just breath to like from things to pull from. I would no, that doesn't make any sense. I was about to be like, ooh, they should do this from Burn the Witch or bring something in for that, but like, no, they won't do anything like that. But as far as the openings, I want to see some cool shit. I want to see them niggas walking around in like Louis Vuitton and Balenciaga and shit like that. Like, give me some stylish shit.
Yeah, that's one thing I think is so far missing.
Yeah,
but to be fair, a lot of that was in like the volume covers for the manga.
Yeah,
and like some of the openings had it, but it was like the ones from like the earliest seasons.
That's
like,
the thing, though.
Opening one is one of the greatest, visually one of the greatest openings in any anime of all time.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
So maybe I would say do a callback to that like regularly. If it doesn't have to be the opening, it can be the ending too. But like even with oh my god, the song that Scandal sings, the ending song where it's like Rukia and and shit, or Hime, where they're just like walking down the plane runway and like the school shit. Like I'm just doing.
Yeah, that was sick. Oh, speaking of which, now that you jog my memory, Spy Family 2's opening from Bump of Chicken is also sick.
Oh my god, it's insane.
It
doesn't even need action.
It really does not.
The song is The song is amazing, and the visuals are gorgeous. It's kind of just one of the things where you just sit and you just like, shit. This is just. It's not. The ending is great too. The ending
I agree with you there
cute.
Too.
Oh, it's so nice. Yeah, but I mean, I wasn't expecting after what they did in the first part. I'm just like, I'm not expecting y'all to miss like at all. And Bump of Chicken. Wait, no. I always get Bump of Chicken and Unison Square Garden mixed up because their lead vocalists sound very similar. But I was just thinking, is it Bump of Chicken? No, both of them have songs out in shows this season.
That's right.
Because I'm like, wait, are these niggas that sang like the Kekai Sensen like opening?
They did Kekai Sensen. Bump of Chicken did Kekai Sensen season 1. They did their opening and the first ending.
Okay, yeah, because I'm just like, this sounds so familiar, but then I was confusing them with Unison Square Garden, so I was it's Unison Square, and I'm like, no, but Unison Square Garden does have that. Did they do season 2? Unison Square Garden did season 2, Kekai Sensen.
Yeah, they did season 2. Bump of Chicken only did season 1.
Okay, so that's why I keep getting them mixed up, because I watched those openings just like.
I could go down the list of like shows that have openings that are just so good. You're just like, they get one. You get like one great one, and it's rare you get like 2.
Yes, where they get a good follow-up. So I would like more style. I really like the shots that they did when they were introducing everyone, like the pink steels with their names and things like that. I enjoyed that, and I thought that added a little bit more flair to it, because I did think the episode was very like muted and dark, and most likely on purpose. But I would like more bright, like, and not just the white, just like, more colors. But I don't know if that fits the arc's palette, because it is just like war. But I enjoyed that because that made me think, oh my god, this reminds me of them being like stylistic and stylized, as far as just, oh, we're just gonna throw like a bright ass pink on this shit and like pop out real quick, and then we'll take it right back. So who knows, we might get it. I definitely want to see some of the Quincy's powers, like what they're going to do animation wise with some of them, especially color wise. Like, I feel like if there's a place for them to experiment with it, it would be with the Quincy's powers, because we've already seen all of our people stuff. So Who knows? But enjoyed it. It was great. And yeah,
it's time.
Yeah,
Chainsaw Man.
So I'm just gonna say I enjoyed the episode, but I honestly was not hyped, like, at all. I can understand why everyone else is hyped. Let me just say that. I understand why you all are hyped. I understand, like, oh my god, it's so cool. But my thing is, I think I had a disconnect with the opening because I loved the opening. It was phenomenal.
Amazing.
It was fucking phenomenal. And the way that I saw Denji and the girl with the horns like goofing around in the opening near the end doing the dancing shit, I'm like, yo, that's Yuji and Nobara. Like that's them niggas. I was like, oh, this is what it's gonna be. Like, they're gonna be joking around, like da 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 da. And then we get to the episode and it's completely bleak. And like, this nigga that sold a testicle, an eye, his kidney, blah blah. I'm like, oh shit, okay, damn. I was like, it was almost as bad as like Cyberpunk Edgerunners first episode. Like, shit, nigga, can you win? Are you gonna get a break? But it goes on, and I'm like, wait. So now Pochita's gone too. Like, Pochita is fused with you. So now the what? I was like, okay, wow, like this is a lot. And then you add that on top of just like the immense amount of gore that just the zombie scene. They slice his fucking back, start stabbing him in the back, stab his hand, stab. Then they show the nigga cut up in the damn dumpster, and then he gets out and they start eating. I'm like, okay, I knew there was gonna be like gore, but like this is like a lot. Like, holy shit. So I was processing that also. And you know, the CG was really, really fucking good. I enjoyed the fight scene. Simultaneously, I kind of was just like, I just don't think that this is the kind of show that I would like actively go out and seek out based off of what I've seen so far. I'm gonna watch it because it's so big, but I feel like this would most likely be something along the lines of like Tokyo Ghoul, where that shit was very like, oh shit, nigga, I don't know if I can do this. But that's just me. I'm just squirmish like that. So I think that was shrouding my overall view of the episode, because I went from, oh, this is about to be a goofy fucking good time, to, oh shit, this is really depressing, to, oh shit, this is really gory also, and then to the very end. So maybe it's because I also thought that, or I've also seen some people talk about it, that it does have like a very goofy, I've seen like memes of it, so I'm thinking, oh, I just assume goofiness is just a part of the show, but maybe it's just like a smaller part and like this part is bigger. I did also think that I enjoyed the exposition parts, and I would like more of them with like the rest of the cast, and I think that's what's probably gonna hook me into the show outside of what we just got with this episode, because it is still the first episode, so I'm not making like a full and final verdict saying, oh, you know, it was cute, but fuck it. It's kind of just like, okay, well, it was interesting and I see where everyone's coming from, but also it just really didn't do as much for me as it did for everybody else. Because everybody else is losing their fucking minds. They're like, oh my god, that was eye porn, that was amazing, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, but it didn't give me like the Blue Lock vibe. Like, I love Blue Lock. Like that, it didn't give me Blue Lock vibes. It didn't give me Witch from Mercury vibes. But it also could just be because those are more akin to what I'm used to. So
yeah, there's my hot take, and this is coming from someone who adores both Chainsaw Man and Fire Punch and basically everything that Fujimoto Tatsuki has ever produced. I think that he is a genuine like auteur manga artist, and I love his work. And I also think that this is a very well produced show. It's overproduced in a way that is designed to sort of get a lot of attention, and is done in a way that you can't like criticize it. It's hard for me to look at it and say like, oh, visually this is wrong or that's wrong. No. They've chosen an aesthetic and a production process with a fair amount of CG that looks good and will probably hold up very well much farther in the future, because it's taking artistic choices rather than just leveraging some technology to do something or other, right? Same way like what Mappa's also done with like Jujutsu Kaisen, where it's a very good series to look at, but it's also drawn in such a way and presented in such a way that there's an actual defined art style there, not just effects, not just like, well, they got everyone to hand draw everything so it looks better that way. There's still some experimentation. It's unique to look at, all that stuff. But my hot take for the season is that there's a whole lot of people right now capping about Chainsaw Man, about how over the top fantastic it is, who deep in their hearts know that this is like a 7 out of 10 episode in a series that is mostly going to be 7 out of 10 episodes until the functional parts, the gears of the story and what is done with the characters really start to fit together and grind forward.
That makes me feel so much better.
Yeah. It's because Chainsaw Man, what the best way I can explain it is that, imagine, this is like older than most of the people who would be listening to this, but like in the late 70s and early 80s, Stanley Kubrick, okay, the director, obviously, even if you've never seen a single movie that he's been responsible for, you know the name because his name is in this pantheon of other great directors from that period that influenced a lot of people that today are like producing stuff. But if you went and talked to people about film, in the late 70s, early 80s, and you brought up Stanley Kubrick, there would be a lot of people. Actually, I don't know, is it Kubrick or Kubrick? I usually say, sometimes I go through both. But there'll be a lot of people who would like, oh my God, he's my favorite director. Oh, did you see the, oh, right? Because he made a lot of awesome movies.
Yeah.
But then if you like fast forwarded like, 10 years, 15 years, there would still be people who would acknowledge he's this awesome director. But if you really push him about how much people enjoyed the movies that he made that are most synonymous with his name, most people actually didn't like love a lot of these films. They just understood when they were watching it that like the person making it and the ideas, being presented were done really, really well. You get what I mean? Like, and that's kind of how I feel about like Fujimoto, is like, I really, really, really love Fire Punch. I really like Chainsaw Man and think it is great. I also love the fact that both series had a clear beginning, middle, and end, and then ended. So they're not these like never-ending stories, and they kind of don't have satisfying conclusions to a lot of the problems and issues that are raised and then addressed somehow in the course of the story. They're just unsatisfying on purpose. And I love that. I think that's great. But I don't think that it necessarily means that, like, just because I'm into the authorship and I'm into, like, what's going on there, that this is a series that when animated, like Chainsaw Man, like, is that impressive on its own. Like, if I watch this episode and I pull out, like, shots that I like, or people are going to really attach to Denji going forward because he is that what I call like puppy dog boys, which are characters that are like dumb and simple-minded, but they're not, and they're very loyal, and you as the audience can kind of project a lot onto them, and the characters themselves don't really challenge you all that much, and then the stories put them through the absolute worst shit, so like you can empathize aggressively. And then when the action comes, it's like, oh man, wasn't that amazing? He got his catharsis. And it's like, okay, cool. But like, this is not groundbreaking. This is not like, 10 out of 10 would watch Chainsaw Man again. You'll go through the whole series. Go ahead.
It's the hype. And I don't feel that. So, I'm not... I don't know. Like, I cannot gauge other people's enjoyment level. Like, they really could have felt that it was a 10 out of 10. But when it comes to, like, music, aesthetic, and, like, the story so far, like, the music is there, the aesthetic is there, the story so far, I really wasn't, like, super duper fucking sold on it. So I'm kind of just, like, on the back burner of where is this going to go, and am I going to really enjoy it as much as everyone is saying I am? Because there's a 3-episode rule. Like, of course... it's gonna get better. Like it's just too big to not.
No, it's like I said, it's a 7 out of 10, like on a per episode basis for the most part. I'm just predicting this because that's how I felt reading it. It's like it's this 7 out of 10 every single like chapter episode kind of situation, but it's doing something that gets you like to like a mental 10 out of 10 because
and it's working because
the sum of its parts is so much more satisfying. It's satisfying, but like it's the intent. Like I use another movie example, like Ichi the Killer. When I was like in college, oh man, people would be like, "You gotta watch Ichi the Killer." Oh my god, like the hallway scene, and like he like cuts a guy in half, and like, but then there's like it's deep, and you know all this stuff, right? When I watched Ichi the Killer, it was a great film. It was a film that kind of, you know, subverted a lot of expectations, you know, all the other stuff that you would expect. And it was hyper violent, and it was like new and felt fresh. But it's not a film that I'd be like, oh, this is a consensus 10 out of 10 film. It's a lot of 7 out of 10 stuff, but it's like arranged in a way where you are shocked, and then you are like, ooh, I like to feel shocked. That feels really good. Fire Punch is a lot. There's this quote, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. And maybe I'm like paraphrasing a bit, but like someone had interviewed Fujimoto like at some event. I think it was actually a Western event, but I don't know what exactly it was. But he had mentioned that like the way he likes to draw his manga is like Korean films, and he likes, you know, obviously like really violent Korean films. But then he said this thing where he's like, but in my stories, like the main character would chase after the villain, but then like 30 minutes into the movie, he catches the villain. And like that's supposed to be the end of the movie. So then you keep like saying to yourself, oh, well, what would happen next if like, you know, after the climax? Well, in my stories, like a lot of Korean films, I linger on the stuff that happens after the end. So like that's what gives the emotional sort of like wavelength of his stories, is that they peak at you know, very early as far as like, oh, what's the height of violence that we can show? What's the sort of like ultra cathartic moment that we can pick up and like get the audience to? But then instead of ending the story there, we keep going on like the emotional decline like afterwards until you get to the end and you're feeling like, well, shit, the note this is leaving me on is very melancholy and very like bleak is maybe not quite the right word, but just sort of you got this like ennui that's like never you're satisfied, but you're not really satisfied. Because like if you know the ending of Fire Punch, and you know what happens in like chapter 10, you know, like you'll treasure the feeling that you have when you're done with it, but you're like, that ain't what you thought this was gonna be about. So that's a long way of saying that I think that a lot of people want to like this show or this adaptation of the show, and definitely remember what they felt if they read the manga. They remember what they felt getting through it. But when you look at like in implementation, is this something where like I would show this to any anime fan and they would all have the same feeling about it? No. That's not the case. No. There are and the reason why you mentioned, I think you brought up like other things this season, Witch from Mercury, Spy Family. These are all series or shows where what they're presenting you on the outside is the same all the way through. They may not be particularly deep, but like you're getting basically one aesthetic and one emotional wavelength. That's it. So if you like that wavelength, and it's a very generalized kind of wavelength,
you know what you're getting. And so
and most people will be happy about that. Chainsawman, you're getting a very different emotional wavelength that already is not something a lot of people are into, just feeling, because it's strongly emotive. Like Denji is a very, very empathetic character from jump, right? And if you know anything about the story, you know that he goes through a lot of shit, a lot of bullshit, you know, top to bottom. But that's not necessarily what everybody's looking for. Not everyone is necessarily looking to get like dragged through the kind of like, even in episode 1, we kind of saw the themes. The Yakuza guy before he gets taken over. What does he call Denji? He says Denji's just a dog, and he's loyal, and he'll do whatever we say, right? And that was meant as a pejorative. The audience reading that line looks at it like it's actually a positive character trait of his. It's why you're going to connect to him. But don't ever forget that. In this series, that's not a good thing. Your main characters are, you've been told from episode 1, is hopeless.
A pawn.
Yeah, he's a pawn. And this isn't one of those series where it's like, oh, well, now we turn the tables on all the people. No, you're just supposed to feel that feeling for a really, really long time. So I think there's gonna be a lot of people capping. There's gonna be a lot of people like pretending. It's like Promised Neverland. There's a lot of people who like know that Promised Neverland season 1 is like really good. Like they know it, but realistically when they watched it, they didn't actually love every episode. They just knew that it was good.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're at with this. We'll see. We'll see.
I mean, that's where I'm at. I mean, exactly. We will see. It's not as though I'm just giving up on it. I'm gonna be like, oh, whatever.
No, it's a very, very, very good show.
Fucking good. Yeah, it's really good. It's just, I'm not mirroring the masses as far as the hype level, and I feel like I should just at least be honest with it, as opposed to coming in here and being like, that shit. No,
there's nothing like I don't even see it as a negative. Like I'm telling people, this is a very, very, very good series. But there are a lot of people out there who are gonna pretend like the reason they love it has something to do with what's being presented to them in the episodes or in the manga. When in fact the main reason they love it is because they know it's good. If like they know that they know it's good, and they know that other people think it's good, so they have to love it.
Trend.
But to be fair, most people shouldn't love this show on its merits. Most people, this shouldn't be for them. Right? Ooh, so this people capping.
They coming.
People capping.
They coming. Get your DMs ready.
Please, I invite it. What you said something bad about Chainsaw Man. I really love Chainsaw Man. I think it's great. That's my answer to you. It's great, but the reason most people like it is not because of any objective quality that they can point to. Because like even the fight scenes, which I thought were so well done, like they're not designed to be like satisfying. They're designed to make you like itch.
Okay, because that wasn't a like, oh my god, this nigga's so cool, he flexing. I was just like, this is just it's like a massacre, and like it's chunky. It's just like he's not like, slicing niggas up and just like moving like this. It's like hacking and slashing, and he had to like
exactly.
It was just
it's heavy and it's like grotesque, and it's like it's not rule of like you. It's the trick. The trick is like when Denji leaps into the air and starts revving his chainsaws, you're supposed to think, oh, this is fucking cool. That's the coolest thing ever. But the way that they animate it, they're not animated to be cool. They're animated to feel like weighty, heavy, gross, like just, everything's screaming not to die. Like, it's not supposed to be a pleasant experience that you're happening. Contrast that with like Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer is like when you pick up the cute puppy.
Smooth,
it's like they do everything, every cheap trick you can imagine to make you gasp and just go, oh, like, because they do everything they can to like, from having Tanjiro have these like right before he kills the demon, these like just deep look into their tragic life, and he's crying, and then like the waves are rolling across the screen, and then something beautiful happens and a head comes off, and like they're doing every cheap trick in the book to just make you feel something, but like the substance there isn't meant to like really hurt you. It's not meant to like drag your soul into the depths of despair, or anything like that. It's meant to feel good. It's a feel good kind of fucking show. Chainsaw Man is not a feel good series. So the fact that like people are hyped for it is awesome. I want people to listen, stay as hyped as you can, but like be realistic.
Be fucking for real.
Yeah, like keep it 100. Like you capping most of y'all. who know. If you read the manga, you know what this is. Like, what? Don't fuck with me, all right? we all know what this is. It's like the inverse of like the fan servicey, like Eminence and Shadow. See, it's like the inverse of that, right? Why do you want to see Eminence and Shadow? You could tell yourself it's because, like, oh, it's gonna when the main character gets the better of the villain, and then he does the cackling, and he is so cool. No, nigga, no, it's some big titty bitches.
Let's be for real.
You're there for them big titty bitches.
I'm there, and I'm like, I want to see. Yeah.
Not only are you there for the big titty bitches, you're there for the big titty bitches saying that the main character is the smartest, strongest, most amazing,
yourself into his position,
right? Yeah. The most amazing human being that was ever born, because that's supposed to be you, bro. And that's why I love Fujimoto. None of the characters in any of his works are meant to be audience inserts. They're not. They're either horrible people or they're living a life that is absolutely miserable. You're not supposed to want to be Denji. That's not what's supposed to. It's not a power fantasy.
Now that gives me hope for the future. Then I do want to see that. Then
that's why that's the actual reason why Chainsaw Man is amazing, because it's not a show or a series where it's full of like audience insert fan service bullshit. Okay? It's heavy, it's gory, it's ugly, it's like slow and chunky and brutal, and like it plays around with a lot of the typical shonen sort of like presentation. You've got your main character leaping and jumping and doing all kinds of fun stuff, and they're going to show you on screen a lot of awesome sights. But unlike My Hero Academia or Dragon Ball or Jujutsu Kaisen even, the purpose is not supposed to encourage you. It's supposed to be a slip down into some bullshit. And the bullshit only gets more bullshit as it goes on. It ain't even Tokyo Ghoul with its like My Chemical Romance level of like emotional depth, right?
Romance.
My man, he's crying. Oh, Kaneki. No, it's not even that. It's not. Like Denji just has a shitty life. Everyone around him takes advantage of him, treats him like shit. The only thing that the only real connection he had was what's his name? The dog. Pochita.
Pochita.
Yeah. That's it. And by the way, that nigga gone in episode 1. That's it.
I wasn't ready for it. I was like, oh, we got the mascot. We got this. Like, yay. Gone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You're not supposed to enjoy it. You're supposed to enjoy not enjoying it.
Well then.
Mm-hmm. That's my take. You be mad at me. Go be mad. I never said it was bad. I not one point did I tell you that this is a bad show.
He never said that shit.
Never said it was a bad show. Said it was great. Never said I wasn't going to watch it. I'm going to watch it. Never said you shouldn't read it. I love reading. I recommend it to people who like shit that's going to make you feel bad. Okay? If you like that, this is for you. I'm just calling out anyone who's capping out here trying to like hype surf off of some clips that they saw. Okay?
Now, listen, the hype surfing is honestly throw up worthy right now, because I'm just like, you niggas can't be like all over it this much. But you could. They could, because they know what's going to get engagement. And that's what it is at the end of the day. So, you already know.
Anyone who watches Real Housewives, just be honest. Just be honest. That's all I ask. Be honest.
Oh my God. I don't even know. Which ones do you watch?
All the ones my wife watches. I can't turn my brain off. I have to I absorb the storylines, even if I'm trying to ignore them. So... yeah, it's a whole thing.
Oh my God, so that really is a common thing. Because I always see, there's so many TikToks of couples of women or someone watching the Housewives show, and the husband always be like, ooh, why you watch this? And then they have a continuing video of spanning the time of the husband just standing up, watching the TV as though he's going to walk out the room. But he's like, Now she knows she wrong.
Right, it's what happens.
She wrong.
And you know me, my brain is always on like let's break down the story. What is the story that's being told? So I'm like, and then my wife won't even be paying attention half the time. She'll be like, "Wait, what happened?" I'm like, "Were you not watching this? You're the reason I'm watching this." But again, please, if you got a problem, if you have a problem with someone saying your hype show of the season is very good, if that's where your problem is, good luck.
The problem is that there's actual criticism.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Or, it's not even really criticism.
It's a criticism of the audience. It's not a criticism of the show.
Audience. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
like, I'm in like 5 years, we're going to talk about this show the way people talked about the Godfather movies. Where it's like, you haven't seen Godfather 2? Nigga, most people ain't watching a fucking 5-hour, director's cut.
I have never touched it. I never will.
Yeah.
Got me fucked up.
It's not, the movies are good to great, but niggas be capping. That's all I'm saying. It's a lot of capping. So yep, that's all I got there. There was a bit of news. A little bit.
Oh, okay.
Teensy little bit of news. Like, I don't know. Hunter x Hunter coming back October 24th.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely news for you. So, actually, I have something to say about that, too, because in the stream, I don't know what's going on, but, like, in the stream I did, like, this past weekend or so, I was arguing with people about Hunter x Hunter, because they were like, oh, yeah, the anime's coming back next year. And I'm like, nope. No, it isn't. And they're like, yeah, they already announced it. Like, it's coming back in 2023. And I'm like, nigga, no, it's not. Like, who told you that?
No, it's not.
And like the response to that was like, oh, and I was like, well, show me an article, like, link an article, blah, 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 blah. And they were like, no, it's coming. And I'm like, okay, no, we can't do this. Like, we're not doing this. So
no.
In turn, I think some people got it mixed up. That with the announcement earlier this year that it was coming back. I think some people took it as it's coming back like anime wise, but I mean, I thought it was very, very clear that like just the manga is returning to like serialization. Yes. But on that note, it's like, man, y'all can't just go around just like saying stuff and not have your receipts ready. Have your receipts ready. Like, come on, y'all. Have your receipts ready. Especially for something like that. Like, I had to stop stream and, like, look up. And I was like, I don't see shit.
Well, that's a big...
announcement.
Big claim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, which studio? Who's them? Like, yeah. But, so, yeah, you're excited. Where are we... Well, wait. Let me not ask you where we're picking off at, because...
I mean, we're the same place we've kicked off at the last 4 times it came back from hiatus.
Okay.
It's just, we're still in the Succession War arc on the boat.
Y'all, they still in that boat?
They've not.
I heard about the boat. I don't know exactly how everybody got. Is it just Kurapika on the boat?
Or
all of them?
Everyone's basically on the boat.
Everyone's on the. Oh my god!
Like all the characters that have ever been that are still alive on all sides are somehow on this boat.
And they're going to the Dark Continent.
Yes.
And that's is the Dark Continent the world outside of their shit? Okay.
Yes. Which to me is nowhere close to whatever the end of the story is supposed to be.
No, that sounds like the beginning.
That's what I'm saying. It's like the whole thing was a prologue up till now.
That sounds like Water 7. Like, it's like
it kind of is. Nigga? You're not even wrong. You're not even wrong.
Yeah, we're at Water 7 and we're One Piece. That means we got a long way to go.
Oh my god, do we have a long way to go?
Okay, well, I'm very interested in how they all got on the boat. Maybe I
just need this nigga.
Maybe I'll saunter on over.
It's good. It's not done. That's the problem. It's great. I just can't recommend it to anybody.
At least he came back, and at least his wife knows what's gonna happen. He told her what's gonna happen in the case that he randomly trips over a rock and kills himself while playing fucking Azure Lane. Like.
Remember when we all thought that Hunter x Hunter was just about a kid trying to find his dad, his deadbeat dad, that was the story, and then it immediately became something completely different to the point where it happens and it doesn't even matter.
A deadbeat dad is not even a good descriptor for him. Like, he's worse.
The worst father of all time. Yes.
All fucking time.
Yeah. Like, I had to argue with niggas who were like, when they got to the end of, what do you call it? The video game. Now my brain is fried. Whatever. Like, when he like finds out that the whole game world was really an island, and like his father and his friends put it together so that like Gon could have this one moment at the end, and I'm like sitting here like they try Takashi, man. This nigga tried to get everybody to be like, oh, what a beautiful moment. This kid's father created a death trap, killed probably hundreds, if not thousands of people, then set up a convicted murderer to fuck with his son. And if the son didn't impress the murderer, he could just kill him.
Greed Island. There we go.
Yeah, Greed Island. What the fuck? And then he meets his dad, and it doesn't even matter. Like, it's like irrelevant to the plot. By the time he's gotten there, like, this nigga has gone through everything in the world. What does Jing have to add to this equation? What does he have to add?
Nothing at this point, because if Jin had shown up during the Chimera Ant arc, he probably would have got washed.
I mean, maybe, or maybe he would have just done some other JoJo level shit and tricked the king into like pulling himself into a black hole or something. I don't fucking know.
Or sent the king directly to Gon.
Yeah, right. So he would do that. He'd be like, "Oh yeah, go talk to my son. You fucking world destroying horrible." And then anyway, I'm not gonna get into like all the my anger level. I love this series too. If you all don't know, Hunter x Hunter is one of my favorite things that's ever existed on this planet. But it's also a load of bullshit. Like, everything about it is fucking bullshit. And this fucking boat is great. This arc is awesome. I've just been waiting for it for a decade. Anyway.
Well, please, my nigga, just keep it going this time. Like, oh my god.
Just stop playing Battleship Girl games on your phone, and just like please
stop.
Just
no more Girls Frontline.
No Girls Frontline. None of that. Don't tell me you just suddenly got into like Arknights or something. So we gotta take an 8-year hiatus. Like, he'll be 78 years old. We'll still be on the boat. Like, yeah. I'll have all the diseases that fucking all the old niggas on that boat have. Right?
Oh my god.
Oh my! It's just horrible. Yeah, so that's the only news I give a shit about this week.
Yeah, I really don't have anything myself then.
Okay.
I guess recommendations.
I have one recommendation. It's a manhwa, so it's Chinese, called The Sword of Glory. And the best I can describe it just has a vagabond vibe to the whole thing. Which, if you're familiar with that series and how immaculate it is, that's saying a lot. I don't think it necessarily has like the philosophical depth, but it's basically a period piece sort of like fantasy world. It involves like the son of a blacksmith who like his grandfather is killed in front of him for making a sword, and like he just turns into a fucking badass. To not necessarily get revenge for his grandfather, but to, learn the true way of the warrior. But it's just well drawn. It's realistically drawn, but it definitely leans into, I won't say like maybe wuxia style, but not necessarily like kung fu martial arts. It's a lot of like really gritty, one-on-one like sword and blade fights where people get mangled up and fucked up, and there's, as far as I can tell so far, I'm not like caught up to it, but it's not really much in the way of like magic or anything else. It's just like pure like demon time, like weapon wielders, and I've just been enjoying it a lot. And I don't read a lot of like Chinese comics in general, just because I think one of the challenges across this whole industry is like originality, and a lot of times I'll run across like Chinese versions of essentially the same light novel that's been copied 8 times, 5 of those times in Korean. You know what I mean? Like these stories are so like worn into the dirt that's kind of hard to find things that feel like a genuine expression of like one author's idea and not just a shameless cash grab or a copy. So it's called The Sword of Glory, and I really like what I'm reading. It also kind of has like a little like I guess like Vagabond or Vinland Saga, like in terms of like the grit and like the types of characters that you run into. Like everyone's just sort of living in a very dirty world that is very unforgiving, and I like it. I definitely enjoyed it. These are not recommendations, but I just want to point out. So in the part of like reading up on more webtoons, more Japanese stuff as well, I've noticed a new entry into like the list of recycled ideas where, you know, it's like when you watch movies and the one studio will have its World War II movie, and then the other studio is like, we gotta drop ours 3 weeks before this one comes out, otherwise we're fucked. And it's the same deal here. I've noticed a lot more of the subgenre of isekai where the author of a light novel or of
is transferred into the world.
Is into his own world.
I saw some discourse on Twitter, I think. It was on Twitter. About a similar one to that you mentioned. You mentioned one about an author that got transferred into a world and the co-author had changed things. There's another one. It's called Scum Villain.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Like a similar premise.
They're all this like
yeah.
So that I've noticed like lately, now that I'm paying attention, that there actually are so many versions of this. And I read through a couple that are on the newer side. So basically, I have a cutoff where like if it's a lot of these series just don't get finished because they obviously don't. They're not very popular.
They don't pick
but
up,
like, you know, if something's been running for like 20 chapters, which is the equivalent of maybe like 5 months, 6 months, I'll give it a look to kind of see where it's going. And I swear, just by random chance, I read 3 different stories in a row that just happened to be the exact same story.
Oh, no.
Like almost down to the T where I could skip whole chapters and be like, okay, by now he's going to meet his attractive female supporter. Okay, now that he's going to deal with the bully. Okay, now he's going to find out that something is changing the story, so he doesn't have, like, perfect future sight because he's the author, or, like, he doesn't understand something that he did. Or even down to the gimmick of, I scrawled some notes on a piece of paper, but I never included it in my submission, but somehow the thing I put on the paper is in the story, happening at the exact same moment. I'm like, there is just, originality is dead. It's just dead. Like... It's dead. I was reading at that point to be like, how shameless are these niggas gonna be?
Oh well, I could tell you that they don't get big.
Right.
There's no bottom.
Right, and then the number of like,
you never know what'll catch on. They're gonna just throw the shit out there. Yeah.
There's also a weird, like anti-Americanism in Korean work that always comes off in like a funny way because all right, I'm not like a political guy, but like we all kind of know. Like this, like South Korea is like a puppet state for the United States. Like they have stuff that they've got their own stuff going on. I'm not saying it's not an independent nation. It is, but in a lot of ways, like it lives in the shadow of whatever the United States wants them to be able to be doing. And so it comes out in a lot of the literature, like a lot. There's always like a time when the main character has to become like a secret agent and then humiliate an American. Like it's
well, also whatchamacallit, even in God of High School, the Americans was fucking around with shit.
Right. It's just this moment where it's like, okay, this is fantasy after all. So we gotta like, we gotta show America somehow. And it's just I didn't care, like I didn't think it was like a bad thing. It was just funny when I started like putting it in my head, like how many times have I seen this particular plot beat in like a young men's storyline where they have to like, have a moment where it's like Korea is also important and we're gonna prove it.
Okay.
So anyway, it has nothing to do with the recommendation at all. It's just something I noticed. But go read Sword of Glory. It's really cool.
Cool. My recommendation is Amagi Brilliant Park. If you've heard of it and you haven't watched it, go watch it. And you're just not hearing about it, go watch it. It's a comedy slice of life show about a narcissistic, super smart high school student who gets pulled into recuperating a theme park. It sounds off the cuff, whatever, but the theme park is actually like a front for like a barrier to a magical world. And so actually all the mascots in the theme park are actually like denizens of like a parallel fairy world. And the way that they get their sustenance to like live is through the joy of humans. So that's why they run the theme park, because they're like, you know, everyone comes and they have a good time, whatever, blah, blah. But the theme park is in decline. So one of his high school classmates is just like, you're really smart. You think you can do anything in the fucking world. So come over here and fix this shit. So he goes, he tries to fix it. And at first it's kind of just like, oh, what is this, blah, blah, blah. My fucking God. I watched this when it aired. But this is like Nichijou levels of comedy, like skits. Like,
oh, I like that.
These motherfuckers are crazy. Like there are 3 mascots in particular that are just menaces. It doesn't matter if you're a child, a teenager, or an adult. Those niggas are menaces in every episode that they show up in, and they steal the fucking show, and then everything else like toppled on top of it. I loved this show for the comedy. The slice of life was cute. The impending like, oh no, we don't have enough energy, blah blah blah, and then it gets turned around by the end, whatever. Yeah, it's an adaptation, but off the comedy skits alone. Watch the fucking show, y'all. Watch the fucking show. I think it has like a 7.4 or whatever on the rankings. It doesn't matter. Watch the show. It's fucking hilarious.
I've heard a lot about it. A lot of good things.
Yeah. Oh my God. Even if you don't want to watch the show, go to YouTube and look up Amagi Brilliant Park like funny moments, like skits. Yeah. Swear to fucking God, those you'll know the mascots that I'm talking about the moment that you see them, because the niggas like, oh my God, now scenes are coming into my head. Like it's really good. They have scenes that are like Nichijou shit, where like homegirl got her bag confiscated and she had her BL.
You know me and Nichijou run deep.
Them niggas.
We run fucking deep. So if you're telling me it's on that level.
Yeah, like it has like iconic funny scenes on that fucking level. It's so those parts are good, which is why I'm like, the overall plot of the show, you may or may not like, mesh with it or whatever, blah blah blah. I enjoyed it when it came out, whatever, but I honestly was just watching for the next like skit. I was just waiting for like the next moment of fuckery, and they delivered it very regularly. So even if you don't watch the series outright all the way through, just go look up the scenes on YouTube. Just top tier. Absolutely loved it. And the only reason I even remembered it recently was because it like the opening popped up on like my YouTube recommendations, and I was like, oh my God, I fucking love this show. Like, what the fuck? And then I went on deep dive and I was like, oh shit, yep, this is it. This is what I'm recommending.
Oh, that's what's up. Well, I guess like the inverse of that is a manga series called Dolly Kill Kill, which I was reading it when it was originally running, and then like it's years ago, and they kind of like fell off the face of the earth, and then I found out that actually it continued. But it's like this, it's like the inverse type of series, where that's like a comedy, slice of life, whatever. This is like horror shonen, where in an amusement park, essentially all the mascots in the amusement park are actually bloodthirsty monsters, and I think like the main character gets turned into a mascot. Maybe I'm misremembering, but like when I saw like Gleipnir, it gave me Dolly Kill Kill vibes. So
I need to see what's going on with Gleipnir.
But definitely in Dolly Kill Kill, the way in which they twist the mascots into these horrifying monsters, like it starts out with like, oh, what if like the head opened up and there was like horrible shit inside. Yeah. But even like the powers and abilities and other things there, like this is a really cool idea. So it's like this. It's if you want amusement park but you just want horror action, then that's another direction that you can go. But you say Nichijou and I'm there, man. I'm right. You don't need to say nothing else. I'm all good.
But yeah, that is all that I have for this week.
Yep, same here.
All right, so if you haven't already and you're watching on YouTube or you're listening elsewhere, make sure you give us a like, 5-star, thumbs up, whatever it be. It all helps. And if you're not already, make sure you follow us on other socials, anime_savants on Twitter, and then just regular anime savants on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Instagram Reels. Also, some of y'all, I don't know what's going on, but one of the Instagram Reels from like a few weeks ago is popping off. So, if you're here from that, hey, hi, double tap it, and then go follow, etc., etc. And we will be having some, some open discourse things coming soon where you can actually debate, or not debate, you can talk to us in real time. But we will give you guys more information about that the closer it comes to that date.
Yep, and you can reach me anytime on Twitter at Neural Handshake. And if you made it this far in this episode, don't forget to not only check out our other socials, but if you are interacting with us on YouTube or Apple or anywhere else, just hit that thumbs up button. That's how we spread ourselves around, get more engagement, the whole deal. So thank you for those who are passionately engaging already. We appreciate you.
All right, bye.
Peace out.